There's a beachfront hotel in Plymouth, and the state quietly filled it with illegal immigrants and didn't tell anybody. There's an airport the governor's office said had been cleaned up, but it actually hadn't. There's a Republican Party in Massachusetts that just held a convention so badly run that one of the most loyal organizers of the party walked out, and then he unrolled from the party. You probably didn't hear about any of those things, and I don't think that that is an accident. Because while every camera in America is always pointed at the noise and the spectacle and the show that is Washington, D.C., there's a whole other layer of politics happening just one level down, where nobody's looking, where the actual deals get cut, and where the people doing the cutting prefer it that way. So this week, you're going to meet a guy who decided to watch the room that no one else was watching, and that's Jack Gately. He's a real estate broker, he's a former Republican, and he's a former Democrat. But his rule is the simplest. It's the most contrarian thing in politics today. It's when they tell you what's happening, go see it for yourself. Welcome to Take That to the Bank. Yeah, so this is the studio. You are my first.
I thought you said you had one person before this.
I had a guest, but that was online. So you're my first in studio guest.
And this is like perfect. This is like
the backdrop's great.
This is like it. Doesn't take much. 2 nice, comfy chairs.
That's all it takes.
And an exposed brick wall. You're good.
And these chairs, so we picked up last year for Boston Blockchain Week. We had Abby Johnson, the CEO of Fidelity, come, and so I was like,
sat in this chair. I could be a billion. I'm not even. Wow. I'm a billionaire adjacent.
You are. Yeah. I mean, that was the reason we got this. I was like, we got like a little coffee table too, but we never put it together because it was too big. So, anyway, but thank you for being here. So
my pleasure.
Today we have John F. Gately. You can call me Jack.
That's me.
Yeah. And Jack and I met a couple years ago in 2024. If you don't know this about me, I was a candidate for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts on the Republican ticket in an effort to unseat Elizabeth Warren. I came in with a mighty 9% of the vote, valiant 9% of the vote. But Jack was one of the best people that I met on the road. We met in Plymouth, where he lives, and at the Republican Town Committee. And I will never forget the advice that Jack gave me at the time, which was that you got to be doing video. You got to be on video all the time. Content is king. And I took that advice. I did as much content as I possibly could with basically being a one-man show. But Jack still sings that tune today for any political candidate that's out there, because you have to be building a rapport with your constituency or potential constituency so that they can identify you with you and get to know you along the way, or else if you're not becoming a star, you're not getting elected.
That is true. No doubt about it. Look at like what's happening with Spencer Pratt. I'm not saying if he's going to win, but he, like 2 weeks ago, he says, I don't have a campaign manager. I don't have consultants. He has a cell phone. And obviously he is in Los Angeles, where there's a lot of movie makers and whatever. But a lot of his videos are pretty straightforward. It's just him.
Right. And it works. And Grant, he had a bit of that star power before. So there's some continuity from where he came being a reality TV star to today being.
He knows where to look.
Correct.
You know, in the camera. And
he had a name.
Those are all helpful things. But, you know, before Zoran became famous, he was never on reality TV.
That's true.
I think his family was in show business or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you look at a lot of his early videos, they were awful. I mean, really super bad. He became world class because he made a lot of videos. He got better. He practiced.
Yeah.
And then with that was kind of like a snowball effect of he raised money, he got volunteers. You know, he found somebody that either he had to pay or volunteer. Hey, Zoran, these videos are really bad, but, you know, I'll help you make one this weekend and we'll do better.
Yep.
And then maybe he was able to hire that, however it worked. But he first got on the scene basically by making some really bad videos. His campaign was kind of like a lark to get membership for the DSA in New York.
Right.
It was like a joke.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, we're onto something here.
But that seems to be how social media and virality works. It's like dedication to whatever messaging you're trying to put out with that sort of consistency over time that then just sort of snowballs into eyeballs.
There is that, and it is like you do have to capture lightning in a bottle a little bit, and like how is it that Zoran or Pratt, which are completely two opposite ends of this political spectrum, or anybody else that we want to throw out there, Fetterman, who's kind of like in this same similar vibe of like an everyday guy, like a populist, we'll just say. And we've seen some recent examples of that with this guy up in Beverly that kind of mocked their local city council. He was trying to make clear that they were voting on something to build more houses.
Or the Marblehead.
The Marblehead. But don't worry, it's really not going to build any more houses.
Right.
And we saw another guy down Cape Cod, the guy with the yellow shirt.
Yeah.
And he's basically ranting against illegal immigration, but it's a strong populist viewpoint, and people aren't looking for like the polished blue blazer Democrat or Republican. They're not looking for that anymore.
Right. And we'll get into that, I think, because you've had your own sort of political identity and journey, I think, that's recently changed. But I want to start with who you are and where you've come from. You're primarily in real estate, and you've been involved in politics, and now you've developed a profile, I guess, of a sort of an independent journalist.
I don't know, really. Right now, I'm just kind of like it's a hobby, but sometimes I play that role, but sometimes not. I think more often that I'm a commentator.
Yeah, like Sue O'Connor.
Yeah, right. Who I've never met before.
I'm just kidding.
And I don't have a lot of interaction. We're talking about Sue O'Connell from the local NBC affiliate.
Thanks for doing it. I love that you just did that, because people sometimes don't have that context.
Yeah, you got to have the context.
Yes,
you got to break the wall. So I don't have a lot of interaction with her. She hasn't. She's like cool with me because, in a way, not that I want to speak for Sue O'Connell, but I think she's cool because she understands that my perspective is out that like she knows where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Well, and you're not causing trouble. You're giving honest and realistic, pragmatic feedback about circumstances that exist with data to support it.
Well, then if I'm not causing trouble, Ian, I'm not doing a good job.
No, I would say no. But you actually are causing trouble in that people seem to be affected by the truth that you're sharing.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that sometimes like whatever I'm saying is like way over. Like I think 99% of the time, nobody really cares what I have to say.
All right. So let's go back. Who are you? Where'd you come from?
So I'm a native Bostonian, and my people have been here, if you can believe the gravestones up in Roslindale, for, I don't know, 175 years or something like that. And now, of all the Gately clan, there's just my four and my nephew. There's just five of us that live in Massachusetts. Everyone else has fled.
Wow.
There are other Gateleys in Greater Boston, but of my wing of the family, there's just five of us.
And they fled for reasons.
Opportunity, taxes, retirement. So they're in Maine, New York, Florida, of course. Opportunity, taxes, jobs, weather, definitely a factor.
Yeah.
So long line of native Bostonians. My family's originally from Mattapan and West Roxbury. I lived in Mattapan as a little kid, and then later in life, I lived on Beacon Hill and in the North End. And now I live in Plymouth, which I love, which kind of is like South Boston South, because all my neighbors are like, everyone's Irish in my neighborhood.
Well, they used to be here in Quincy.
Yeah.
And then they migrated further south.
Well, I used to live in Quincy, like in my 20s,
right,
when I was in college. I lived on Wollaston Hill, and I lived in North Quincy. But Quincy's not that way anymore. It's changed.
It has.
So like a lot of that is natural and fine. I don't have a problem with it when it kind of happens organically.
Sure.
It's when the government kind of comes in and with their policies purposely ruins your neighborhood in the idea that they're there to help.
Right.
Which is what kind of happened with beautiful Mattapan at one time. Was a super sought after, like, leafy suburb. It was a really wonderful place. And then the government came in and decided that they wanted to help. And yeah, that didn't work out very well.
Right. All right. So you've Boston guy, live in Plymouth, and where'd you go to school?
I went to UMass Boston. Other than that, I spent a year at American University in Washington, D.C., which was, I was never on the mommy and daddy plan. So I was like, okay, they're going to send me there. And, or, you know, I had enough scholarship to go there for a year. And I was like, did the math. And I was like, yeah, no, this is not going to work for 4 years.
What'd you study?
Political science.
Okay.
I somehow got a job at the physics lab. I don't know how this worked, but at American University, they did some of the Manhattan Project. So I'm actually working in I think it's called the McKim building in the basement in the physics lab. And I was always fascinated with physics. It's a really interesting. And somehow they gave me I showed up their work study, and their physics department was not thriving.
Okay.
So they actually offered me a scholarship, 4 years in physics. And I guess as a matter of being self-aware, I was like, I just can't do the math. I can't do the math.
This isn't for me.
Well, no, I was super fast, but I couldn't do the math.
Right.
Totally lost on the math. We want to talk like big picture, like theoretical. But I couldn't do the math. And I was like, thank you, Dr. Key. Very kind of you. But I know who I am. And I passed it up.
Wow.
4-year scholarship at American University for physics. Sometimes I look back and I say, gee, that was pretty dumb. But yeah. So.
All right. So you passed on the scholarship. You finished it with a degree in political science.
At UMass Boston.
And then did you go into politics? Did you work in government?
Yeah. So, shortly thereafter, I think I graduated. I'm really old. So I graduated in the winter of 91.
Okay.
Then I took a big trip to California in the January of 92. And then basically when I came back, I had a job that was, back then communications worked so much slower.
Yeah.
But I talked to them before I left. I said, I'm going on this trip to California. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And they were like, okay, we'll call you then.
And who are they?
My people that I was an intern at the State House.
Okay. And
they're like, yeah, we might have something for you. We'll call you then. And there was no email, no text messaging. Right. You were gone to California. You were unreachable.
Right.
And so they came back and, get a good night's sleep. And then 3 or 4 days later, they call you up. Yeah, why don't you come in? And that's just how things. So I worked there for about 5 years.
And where in the State House?
I was just a staffer for a state rep that was from down the Cape.
Okay.
Nothing glamorous. But it was a really interesting job.
But that's where
I loved it.
That's where you started to learn about the system.
Well, I would say even before that, because I had already worked on campaigns before that.
Okay.
That's probably why so I had already worked on congressional campaign before that. 2 of them, I think. So I'd already been in politics since I think I got my first paid campaign job in 1988.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty young.
And who was that with?
Congressman Studs.
Gary
Studs.
Gary Studs, yeah. Oh, yeah. He was infamous.
Infamous, you could say that. Some people, it's a very controversial name.
Yeah.
I would say that the people I worked with and him, they were all blazingly bright. And I learned a lot.
That's great. Okay. So how did you find your way towards real estate? Was real estate your next sort of vocation and industry, or did you do stuff in between?
No, I spent probably from 88 to 2000-ish in politics. Then I kind of felt that, all right, now I'm kind of 30 and I have to make a real living. So I just went into regular sales.
Okay.
And I had many opportunities to get my real estate license where I really super thought about it. My wife worked at a commercial real estate uh, firm downtown, and they were like, "Yeah, get your real estate." I had a lot of opportunities. Even when I first moved to Beacon Hill, I thought about renting apartments on the side. I like put it off and put it like, what an idiot, because like I can think of like the business I would have had if I had started earlier and got my broker's license in 1993 or 2001.
Oh,
But I
sure.
didn't ever get licensed in 2011. And like an idiot, I kind of waited until I really needed the money until I did it.
Yeah.
Because like the great financial crisis was really tough on me. It was tough on me, but also I screwed up. So I got my license in early 2011 where I really needed to make the money.
Okay.
And I started renting apartments in a part-time basis in Alston, Brighton.
Wow.
And
that's a grind.
It is, yes. But fortunately, I had another gig that was on the road. So I only had to rent like 2 or 3 apartments a month to kind of make it work.
Okay.
And, there were other kids there, 23-year-old kids who were much younger than I. I was like, well, I don't know, 40, whatever. And I mean, they're renting a dozen apartments a month.
Wow.
And I was just like 2 or 3.
Yeah, that'll do.
And my broker himself, he was only like 23 or something like that. So I was like the old man at the office. There were like 2 of us. This other guy who had been in the apartment rental business forever, and then me.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting office to work for. So I worked there for 3 years, and then I got my broker's license.
Okay. And so around that time, so you've had different, I want to sort of interweave, I guess, your politics and real estate, because I think that has happened since. I mean, your political affiliation, because for a long time you were Democrat, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess at what point did you recognize, hey, this isn't working for me?
Well, as I said, I kind of took politics off. I took like 8 or 9 years off from politics entirely.
Yeah.
To go into the dreaded private sector, and I was in sales.
The dreaded.
And during that time, like I hardly did any politics. Twitter didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere around 2009 or early 2010, Twitter became a thing. Scott Brown became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like I felt comfortable doing Twitter as kind of like a hobby. And in terms of like my political affiliation, I don't really think like that famous Elon Musk diagram, the stick figure one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think I've changed all that much. I'm still kind of like a President Kennedy Democrat, a Bill Clinton Democratic Leadership Council Democrat. I really believe that the government should help those that cannot help themselves. But otherwise, like a rising tide lifts all boats. Like that's me. Strong national defense. Like that's what I believe in.
Right.
That hasn't really changed. And like it's that diagram. Like, whoa, what happened to you people? Yeah, so that's how I feel about it.
So it's the landscape that's really.
Yeah, like
shifting.
when I worked in the State House in the early 90s or even mid 90s, there were a handful of like completely whacked out Democrats, right? I mean, they were like far left, like Pat Jalen.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
she's still there.
She's still there.
Yeah.
She's retiring this year.
Okay.
Thank God. But she's still there, and like you knew, Pat Jalen was like, how do I want to say this? Effectively a communist, right? But like there was only a trace amount of these people, so they were like they were an oddity. They were entertaining more than anything. Now they're the majority of people that run the State House and run policy throughout Massachusetts, and you're like, whoa, what the hell happened here? So it's. And all of a sudden, because of that happening, all of a sudden I'm some type of right-wing nut job, which like I don't get.
Well, it's interesting because I think if you track that, I just know from a personal political affiliation and sort of, I'm not an ideologue by any means, any shade, but I know that when in 2010, 2011, I was unenrolled. I start my voting life as a Republican. Like I came from this household, bipartisan household. My mom was a Republican, my dad was a Democrat, and I identified with like the Bush, like H.W. Bush Republican, and then the W Republican. So I'm in college, and then Iraq War happens, and I'm like, I'm out. I'm not into this. So going into 2010, 2011, I participate in this progressive leadership development program.
They sucked you in, Ian.
Well, progressive I thought meant advancement.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like progressive didn't have that charged feeling yet. Now when I look back at that room and the people that were in that room, I see where everything was going. I didn't see it then. I was just like, some of these people are crazy. And they were probably like the Pat Jalins, you know, who it was a fringe, but it was a room full of people. Some I could identify with, some I could not at all.
And just to interrupt you, like there's a lot of people that are far left, like Pat Jalin,
Yeah.
who like they're really nice people.
Yeah.
I mean, if Pat Jalin was your neighbor, it'd probably be just fine.
Yeah. No.
But politically, they're just completely wacky.
Right. Yeah.
And so sometimes it's hard to pick up.
But the narrative
first.
But the narrative changes the point, right? Is that term progressive was co-opted. Particular interests and priorities within both parties have changed in my lifetime as a participant voter since 2000, and so I think that like me, like you, it's difficult to find a home. You're like, how am I supposed to totally align with either of these parties when the most vocal portions of each party are batshit? So at a certain time you get on Twitter, and how did you engage with Twitter? Did you just were you one of the early people that sort of just was able to put out a message, and you developed a community? Did you develop relationships? Did you develop a message? What is the value of Twitter to you in the early days, and I guess how that's evolved over time?
Well, I had worked a lot in my last kind of political experience was in survey research.
Okay.
So I had some experience analyzing polling data and that type of thing. So that was helpful. And I also just kind of, having been in politics, like somebody had a press conference and I'm like, this guy does not have it, and I'm just like, the banner fell down behind him.
Yeah,
he's stuttering. The sweat is pouring. He looks like that guy Brooks from Broadcast News, that famous scene, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy does not have it.
Yeah.
And I would just I guess hot takes that were just
hot takes,
undeniable, just what it is.
Right.
Is not gonna win. And then his whole universe they'd go bonkers. But that was also a time when Twitter was everybody,
mm-hmm.
and Twitter's not everybody now.
No, it's not. It's certainly the tone has changed a lot. The conversation isn't what it used to be. But I guess because you now have platforms, I think that you use. Twitter is one. You have 24 Beacon that you use to put out news as well, and so. I want to hear about sort of the trail to the point where you started outwardly in an organized way communicating your message to people because you had something to say.
I guess much more recent, because I quit Twitter altogether when Trump lost in the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I just in all the censorship, and I was like, I'm all set. I'm done. And I think I had 3,500 followers or something like that. And I was like, I can't say what I want here. It's just forget it, delete my account. It's not a productive use of my time. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when somewhere, I'd have to look it up, but at some point I restarted a new account. And I think the things that I was saying were mostly that caught the account on fire was relative to what I would call the invasion. You might not like that term, but I'll call it the invasion. So I did
say it a different way so that people can understand what you're talking about.
Biden's open border policy.
Okay, there you go. So some might,
so that you're up to date.
Some might think of it as mass migration, or some might think of it as immigration. You know, everyone has a different perspective on whatever the narrative is coming from whatever channels they're.
And you're all welcome to watch. So the first video I did was not on Twitter; it was on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And it was the oceanfront motel for illegal immigrants. So the Healey administration rented out this whole hotel in Plymouth that was right on the beach. And I did a video about it, and it wasn't really that good of a video, but it had and it went on Facebook, and it exploded. And I didn't even know it exploded. I'm not a super Facebook, like I'm not on it every minute. So like 2 or 3 days later, I was like, damn, like what happened here? I had no idea because it got shared several hundred times, or the numbers were way off the chart. Usually, like I'll get like one share.
Yeah.
And like something happened here,
and this went viral.
It went without even, I didn't even know about it.
Right.
And so then I started to go to the airport, where the media had told us that the airport was no longer being used, and I think that was probably the biggest early scoop I had. The airport's no longer being used. The governor has said no. It's all cleaned up. And I was like, that's just not true. I've got like 5 people telling me it's not true. So I just went in there Sunday and I'm like, not true. And I just made a video. And then that exploded that story.
I think what I'm trying to reconcile right now, or to sort of frame, is that we live in a time, and we've probably lived in this time before, but it's just so much. We have so much exposure to on-the-minute news and feedback and constant barrage of social media, whatever. That you're talking about a circumstance where a public official lied to the people they represent about a situation, and you proved that they were lying. And generally, I know that you're critical of the Healey administration, and I want to hear more about some of those things that you're critical about. But it leaves people in this place where they don't know who to trust, and the traditional channels for media that they try to consume, whether it's your cable news or your local news, they're not going out on the street as you have to investigate and report on these situations to prove true or false.
Yeah, all you had to do was have one TV crew show up there, and I wouldn't have had a story.
Right.
You just had to show up.
Right.
But they just took it and like, okay, they're not curious. Either they're not curious, or they don't have the budget to do it, or the time. Certainly, the heydays of Chet and Nat giving you the news at night.
Yeah.
And the golden age of local television.
Yeah, the local personalities.
Yeah, remember like Channel 5,
mm-hmm.
They had a varsity slate of personalities. Chuck Kramer, David Ropeek, and just like people that were like, they were attracted to local television to tell stories. And those super talented people are not going into local news anymore.
So, but what I guess the news stations then end up doing is protecting incumbency, a particular type of incumbency, by their reluctance, unwillingness, or lack of ability to report on truthful subject matter.
Somebody wrote a book about that, something about manufacturing consent. Like somebody smart wrote that book's already been written.
Is that Noam Chomsky?
That could be Chomsky.
Yeah, that might be your book recommendation today. I'll give it another shot.
I already knew who it was. Just joking with you.
But I mean, that's a lot of the conversation that I'm trying to bring out here is, contrarian views are not actually always contrarian. They might be actually the right views. They're just not packaged as you're used to receiving them.
Yeah.
Is that you're sold, you're subject to the whims of the channels that you consume media, and whether that's social media where you're just flooded, or traditional media where you're given particular viewpoints that might not actually match with reality.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of like so jaded having worked in politics in the 90s that I do kind of feel like sometimes I should be from Missouri, show me state.
Yeah.
I drove back from Arizona several years ago and I was like, is Bill Maloogian telling me the truth? Are people really waiting over the Rio Grande at Eagle Pass, Texas? And so I was driving back from Arizona. I went to Eagle Pass, Texas. I walked down there on a Sunday morning. And what do you know? 10, 15 minutes of waiting around. Here come a group of people waited over he's telling me the truth.
Wow.
So I was like, I went there to like, is this a bunch of Fox News hype?
Right.
And I was like, no, it's not. It's true.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I want to see it for myself. I felt the same thing when I read Steve Robinson's reports up in Maine about organized Chinese crime with the marijuana grow houses.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated by those reports, but I was like, is this a lie? So one day I just got in the truck and drove up there, went to half a dozen, 7, 8 of these places. I'm like, no, it's true.
Confirmed.
Yeah. So sometimes it's just like my burning desire to be like, am I being lied to do these things, to make these videos?
So let's talk a little bit about. First of all, were you a Charlie Baker guy?
Yeah, I was a big supporter of Charlie Baker in the first year he ran, and then in the second time.
And so in Massachusetts, Charlie Baker was Massachusetts' Republican governor. He served from 2012, I believe, until 2022.
Until Healey took over, yes.
Yeah, until 2022. And
I think it was 14 to 22.
Okay, all right, 14, 22. And so Maura Healey was elected in 2022 as a Democratic governor. And so, what do you see, I guess, in the difference between the 3 terms that Charlie Baker served or the 2 terms that Charlie Baker served and where Maura Healey is now?
I think the biggest issue is the energy policy. And Baker was for that multi-state energy policy, which finally kind of got killed when Connecticut finally backed out of it. Forgive me, I forget what the name of that was, but that's gone. But the Green New Deal under Maura Healey has morphed into this giant jobs program and tax credit program that is sucking so much state resources and driving up our tax bill, because your utility bill is just basically a tax bill that also includes a line item for electricity.
Right.
It's basically, when you get your utility bill, that's all it is really a tax bill.
The fees embedded in the private service that's provided.
There you go.
Right.
And it's all driven by this Green New Deal that it's like I swear to God, she would almost be like, it's okay if I'm no longer governor again, as long as you guarantee the Green New Deal thing will stick.
I think, I try to look at it from both sides, right? Why would we be supporting such policy that puts residents and businesses in such detrimental positions, and the state as a desirable place to live? Because you're pricing out businesses, you are pricing out residents, but you're also making it less affordable for the residents who can't move on their own. And you don't have people or businesses moving here because the electricity or the energy prices are so high. But I also look at what was the policy of the Green New Deal that connected to the federal government. And it seems that Massachusetts made a bet that we're going to align ourselves with the Biden administration, Ed Markey, Green New Deal, AOC, Ed Markey, and we're going to be afforded all of these federal funds to come through the state. Because what I've learned being involved in politics is everything is about cash flows. If you're not bringing money to the state through whatever means, connecting the federal dollars to businesses and nonprofits and individuals on the campaign side, it all ends up kind of playing together, then you lose control. This is why I view the Democrats as largely having such a stronghold in the state, because they control the cash flows, and there's probably other things involved like redistricting and other things that, again, connect to party politics. But Point being is they made a bet on money flowing through. They didn't anticipate that that money would stop flowing when the Trump administration took over. And so now we're left in this place where there's a dance going on, it seems, by the governor trying to protect her position, but without any true solutions to the energy problem.
That's true. And it also, just to throw in another wrinkle from another topic we just spoke about, the fact that Trump won is probably the best thing that's happened to Maura Healey in the second half of her first term. And the reason why is because he closed the border, which shut the spigot off of illegal immigrants, which allowed her to close the Healey hotels. And you can almost track almost exactly her upswing in polling numbers with the closing of the Healey hotels.
Interesting.
If she wasn't able to close the hotels, if Harris was president, well, then Maura Healey would probably be attorney general. But whoever was governor in Massachusetts, let's just say Kim Driscoll, the continuation of the Healey hotels would have sunk a Democrat governor in this year. But the fact that the spigot was shut off is actually saving Maura Healey.
And it's twofold, because the hotels had to get shut, and then the governor still gets to use Trump as the excuse.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. But that's
I just want to answer the other question, because you talked about the money, and that's real. Like, we all can get upset about the Healey hotels or this or that, but keeping the gravy train, which is, I think, what you were trying to say,
correct,
is whether it's the state employees just cashing their checks. We have a state representative that's retiring this year. He's been a state representative. He's a Republican, and he's like literally been there for 30 something plus years. He's institutionalized, and we have a lot of people who are just collecting the checks. There was this big expose by the local TV station about the DPW workers that are abusing the system. Everything's about keeping the ball and keeping the blob fed. Everyone focuses on the DPW guy leaving work early, but I tell you, the bigger number to expose, and we saw how sensitive it was when Trump tried to cut back on some of the higher education and research monies. Those people really exposed how desperate they are and completely dependent upon the federal government and entitled they are. I heard the UMass chief out at UMass Amherst, he was against some of these cuts, and the way he spoke about it, it sounded like a 12-year-old teenager. Like, Dad, I'm entitled to that bicycle. I'm entitled to that iPod. They just, like, they've never had to actually work in a competitive environment in their life. They're from academia. They just expect the next grant to come.
Well, and it shows how faulty that model actually is, right?
For innovation.
Yes. Well, for everything. Because, I think I looked at colleges and universities, especially during COVID. You saw that the sort of middle market being eroded, and you see the middle class of everything being eroded, but colleges and universities are also being affected. And,
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Close more of them.
Yeah.
They're failing businesses. Yeah. They deliver a product in an incredibly inefficient manner. And I think what that exposes, there's a massive amount of upper end people making lots of money at colleges, universities, the eds and meds of Greater Boston and throughout the state. And almost all of that is subsidized by the federal government in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole mess of people that are on food stamps. Like, we're now 1 in 7 people on food stamps in Massachusetts that are on the bottom end. And as you said, like, the middle is getting squeezed out.
Totally.
Because what people criticize the food stamp scam in Mattapan, right? The guy that allegedly stole $7 million. I think he's now confessed and pled guilty. But there's this massive scam that's so much bigger that basically most of everything that Massachusetts runs on, meds in it, not that they don't do good work, but there is so much waste there that, like, even when you suggest, oh, we're going to cut 2%, they just go bonkers. And there's other states that are not solely dependent upon it.
No, in fact, I just wrote a paper. It's titled "Capital is the Only Magnet." I haven't released it yet. By the time this is put out, it will be out. But it looks at other places that are coordinating capital and aligning politics in order to affect positive economic development outcomes, which is what the Massachusetts did with the Green New Deal, but that lost, right? But places like Columbus, Ohio, tech hubs. Okay, they're building out infrastructure. They got a ton of money through the CHIPS Act, and now it's a destination. Chattanooga, Tennessee, right? These are areas. But you know, the point being is that without those coordinated efforts of capital and politics, you lose. But we're also in Massachusetts, we have the lowest return on federal dollars that we send to the government, right? So for every tax dollar that goes to the federal government, Massachusetts has the lowest return on that capital back to the state.
I've heard that number, but are they counting the money that goes back to colleges, universities, and research institutions?
That's a good question that I would have to check.
That's
that's a good question.
I'm guessing maybe not entirely.
Yeah, no, because that is a huge component of it.
They're probably only counting money that goes back to some government entity,
right?
Not the pass-through entities.
Right. All right, so we've harkened on a lot of the issues here in Massachusetts, and you were a Charlie Baker guy, so you got involved with the Republican Party, and you know, most recently you unenrolled from being a Republican. And why'd you do that? Like, what happened?
So I was a Democrat up until like 2009. And I think I voted in the U.S. Senate primary which was
for Ian Cain.
Well, you weren't on the ballot. This would have been
back then. Okay,
2009.
Yeah.
And then I left the gym and I registered as a Republican, and it was like getting divorced. It was hard.
It is.
Not that I've ever been divorced, but like it was like losing a family member. It was like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
And but I thought Charlie was a much better candidate than our other options at those times. I was less happy with him, especially with the pandemic. And then I only got involved with organized Republican Party politics in the last 2 years. Somebody called me up and said, we want to take over our Republican town committee. Would you run for Republican town committee? I was like, okay. And then they're like, you have to do it as a write-in. I was like, okay. So I got like 35 votes or whatever, and I was on my Republican town committee. And so, but that's only been in the last 2 years.
Okay.
I guess the best way to phrase it is that old cliche, like the infighting is so fierce because the stakes are so low.
So in Massachusetts, the registered Republican population is somewhere around 9-10%?
8.
Okay, 8%. But the unenrolled voters, which means they don't have any party affiliation, is around 65, right? And so what that should mean is that there's a large swath of people that would swing to ends, which does not typically happen.
It used to.
It doesn't, though, now, right? Yeah. And so what's going on in the Republican Party in Massachusetts?
I don't know. Like they like you said earlier, like there's a lot of people that are they're completely bonkers.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, just from a mind share point of view, I'm all set. And I think there were a couple of things that I thought were tremendously ethically wrong. And I was like, I just can't be a part of this organization. And the convention itself was mismanaged horrifically. And I could almost kind of get over that.
So this was a convention to select candidates for the constitutional offices in the state?
Right. It was in Worcester. Technically, it's not to select anybody. It's to it's a hurdle that if you pass the hurdle, you can continue on in the race. So rather than anoint somebody or endorse somebody, it actually doesn't do that. It's a hurdle that you have to get over.
Unlike which didn't take place in 2024 with Kamala Harris.
Right. Yeah. Right. So we actually had one of those things. I attended, and there were three governor candidates, and two of them made it. One of them didn't. So then the field gets narrowed. The purpose of the convention is to narrow the field, and so that the party faithful can have a voice in the process. Because in Massachusetts, in the primary, Republicans can vote in the primary and independents if they choose, or the independents can vote in the Democrat. They have the choice.
All right. So what do you see? What's on the horizon for this upcoming? We've got a primary on the Republican side. I don't believe there's going to be a primary on the Democrat side, right?
For the corner office?
Yeah.
No,
Nobody's challenging Maura Healey.
No, she's going to get the nomination. Their convention is like getting.
I think it's this weekend,
something like that.
Which will be this is currently May 28th, I believe is the date.
7. What?
May 27th. We're recording
late May
anyway.
Anyway, she'll be the nominee. She has no challenger. Nobody of meaning. I think there might be some not challenge. She's not going to. She'll be the nominee.
Okay, and then there's two gentlemen on the Republican side that have made the ballot.
Yes. So Mr. Minogue and Mr. Shortsleeve. Mr. Minogue has put in a lot of money, like many millions. Mr. Shortsleeve has put in, I think, maybe some of his own. I don't want to put a number on it, but I'm going to put it in the several hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
So there's a financial difference there. But on the other hand, like we've seen a lot of very well-financed candidates not win. And we also talked about in this conversation people like Spencer Pratt or Zoran, who, if you catch that lightning in the bottle, it doesn't matter if you don't have money. The money will follow.
Yep, the star power helps. So do either of these guys have that star power, or do you think that they can build it in the next couple of months?
You know, I was kind of like a perfect Minogue voter. But my question was, did he have the talent? Because especially coming off Mr. Kraft, who just ran for mayor. Mm-hmm. And I remember I saw Mr. Kraft on City Hall Plaza, and that was one of those things I put up on Twitter. I was like, I watched him mingle with the crowd. I'm like, this guy he has no idea how to be a candidate. And I have some experience in evaluating these types of things. And I was like, he was like his first event. I was like, this guy is not going to happen. And he just made mistake after mistake after. And so, my question was, does Minogue have the talent? And the simple fact of the matter is almost everything he does is controlled in a bubble. Mm. And he never puts himself in a position where he's just
vulnerable.
Yeah, let's put it that way.
Yeah, where there's subject to whim.
Right. When he first announced in October 1st, I went to like 8 or 9 events that I was at, and I'm not running for governor.
Right.
And his challengers were at, and he didn't go. And he just announced, especially when you just announce, you want to probably be at all these types of events.
Right.
He didn't go to any of them. And I'm like, and then I really started to become skeptical.
So up in the air, who takes it? And then do either of them have a chance, do you think, to beat Maura Healey?
In November, yeah. I think it's going to have to be one of these things where it's like a Spencer Pratt, Zoran thing.
Unless if one of these two wins, whoever wins, this has to happen in order for
the public polls that we see Maura Healey up like 30%. But no one's really had a chance to know these guys.
Right.
And if you look at the speed of politics today, nobody knew who Spencer Pratt was 4 weeks ago. So things move a lot quicker than they ever used to.
I wonder if a place like Massachusetts will ever welcome two-party politics, or if the engineering is so set in stone that there won't be movement?
Well, even if we elect a Republican governor this fall, there's this other problem is that we can't legislate away the winter.
Yeah.
So, no, not to change the subject, but
Yeah.
I think that my content is now changing. It's already started, but I kind of regret over the last 7 or 8 months I've over indexed for Massachusetts. And I'm way more interested in many, many other things that are not Massachusetts specific. And just me personally, like, I'm 57, so I have, I don't know how many years left, like 5, 10, 15. I don't know. Maybe I'll still release music when I'm 83, like Paul McCartney. I don't know. But I have to start to think like, do I really still want to be here in Massachusetts in 10 years or 5? Like, I'm starting to wonder. And I'm also like, maybe I'm over indexing for Massachusetts.
Why, why put the energy in? Why do you care?
I just asked. I'm asking myself that same question.
It just came to me because I think I know that I suffer from this problem that I care about things, and when you care, you get sort of wrapped up in them, and you hope and wish for particular outcomes. And sometimes, if you're detached or disassociated from issues, you can live your life better. It's almost healthier,
Well, I think when you have a business here and a family here, you care. And overall, all I want is widespread prosperity because I'm super concerned about social issues. Like, I want people to have healthy family lives, and I want kids to grow up to be successful and to go to good schools and have opportunity. But I think all of that leads from having widespread prosperity. When you have widespread prosperity, there's less domestic violence and all the other bad social outcomes. So that's why I'm interested in it and invested in Massachusetts. But at some point, you're like, wow, maybe I need to. There's got to be. I got to start to think about some arbitrage.
We're not investing in widespread prosperity. I don't believe that, and that's not a pessimistic outlook. That is a looking at the state of the union. We are like the system's sick, right? Or there are perverse incentives for people to participate. And I think that, and
give me an example.
The one thing that I was thinking about when we were coming into this conversation, especially on the party side of the politics, is like, it behooves any party in this, the only two parties that you really know that operate, and we'll focus on Massachusetts, to protect their own interests, no matter what they believe. Like, they can just use buzzwords and clips to get people aroused and incite them to do what they need, which is vote. But they're trying to protect their interests. I just view this thing all about money, and it's protecting positions, and it's actually protecting egos and identities that people get attached to in these positions because they believe that they have power. And so I just don't like. We don't make necessary innovative wholesale changes that would affect widespread prosperity. When I think that, it might not be easy because it's a two-way street. People have to be interested in participating in that widespread prosperity, and there are so many different variables that fit into a person's life that they might not welcome that for whatever reason, And I think those are some of the social issues that we encounter. And then there's competition. So now the competition, especially in a place like Massachusetts, what you see is that competition is now on a global scale for labor, and whether that's intellectual capital or physical labor, right? You are imported here, right? And so there's, I'm going to use the word, there's this displacement that's taking place, and that's not meant to be controversial. That's what's happening. And there's this threat, which I view as sort of complementary, the AI thing. I think that AI as a corporate speak right now is being used like sort of ESG, and I think it's also being used as sort of a smokescreen for driving up corporate profits. You know,
If your business stinks because your business stinks, no, it's AI innovation.
Right.
Let's lay off 20% of our staff because of AI,
Right.
not because our business model stinks.
Right.
But fortunately, we live in the United States, which is exactly that, the United States. And so if you can't make it in Massachusetts, sadly, you can move to Tennessee or Florida, right? The laboratory, there's places that you can go. And some people say, well, I'm too poor to move to XYZ. I if you're 19 years old and you're like living on the street and you're there and you're able-bodied, not addicted to drugs or anything, you can buy a bus ticket to Odessa, Texas, and they'll put you to work.
I'm a firm believer in charting your own destiny. I am a firm believer that if you want to do something, you can do something. You can make that happen. So I agree with you. Yeah.
Or you can send yourself to real estate school and become a real estate agent and sell houses or rent apartments, right?
And how would I go to real estate school?
You could do Jack Healey, onlinerealestateacademy.com. But like there's plenty of opportunity out there. So I think when you're talking about the money, like you're almost, not to get too like deep here, but it's kind of like Roman Empire, like analogy. Like eventually, sometimes systems become too top heavy. There's too many people with a vested interest that keep the money going, and they're just sucking the productivity out of the middle class. That's what's happening. And you look how many people are on food. It's awful. Here we are. We're smart and we're wealthy. 1 in 7 of us are on food stamps. Something's wrong.
Yeah, something is wrong, and I also view that bidirectionally as well. I view that as the 1 in 7 people, that one supports businesses as well. Right? It's a bidirectional subsidy. So it's like thinking about Walmart, which is probably a top consumer of government subsidies
via food stamps.
Correct.
Yes.
So the system is, it works how it does, and it's unfortunate or otherwise that it's almost like it needs to be kept in place like that because it would break.
I'm all for breaking things.
Yeah, and then seeing what grows.
Yeah. Like, okay, you talked about AI and okay, so things break. That's opportunity, right? Let's have some, and just get on. I would slightly switch the subject. I was thinking as I was driving up here today with AI, there's this whole controversy. I'm super fascinated about this, about people that are opposed to data centers.
Yeah.
And I get it. But I also was thinking that as I was driving in today, that the opposition to data centers today sounds a lot like the opposition to Home Depot from 25 years ago. So like 25 years ago, somebody proposed a Home Depot for your town. People went bonkers.
Yeah.
Same thing with Walmart. They're going to put a Walmart. They're going to ruin our town. Oh, why is your town so vulnerable to begin with?
Yeah.
And we have a Home Depot in Plymouth, but we also have like 3 other regular hardware stores too. Maybe I think we lost a True Value. But I really think that it's a very similar type of, it's new, we don't understand it, it's big and it's orange. And I think the opposition is very similar to Home Depot, Walmart opposition from 25 years ago.
I'll agree with you kinda, only because I think they service different things, right? So I don't think the AI disruption or the complaints, I think it's definitely about the physical aspects, large land usage, also consuming natural resources. But but I think people even don't go further than that, which is the uses of the data center. What is this going to be used for? Which is a deeper discussion as well. But I think what these generally miss is data centers are all over the place, and they have been. This is not new.
No, we must villainize them.
Well, everyone's using data centers in their own way.
I have a data center right here.
You got a data center there, and if you think about the consumption through Amazon runs its own cloud. Microsoft has their cloud. Those are data centers. So the best marketing term ever devised was cloud, because you think it floats in the air, even though it's a physical data center managing all of those transactions and data that we produce on a regular basis. So I think there's a lot of fear mongering for what reason I don't fully understand, but it's.
I think people want to take advantage of it for their own political purpose.
Yeah, it's the du jour. Yeah,
and I think there is significant civil rights concerns relative to. I don't want to live in a surveillance society.
Yeah,
I was even talking to my kid the other day. Like I was telling her, when we used to go to the city, like on senior skip day, like when you're in high school and you skipped and you went to the city, 5 of your friends. We showed up at Park Street Station. All right, parents want us home by 5, so we got to meet back here at 4. And there was no cell phones.
Right.
You're just going to meet back here at Park Street Station at 4:00.
Right.
And then maybe 2 of your friends went that way, and the rest of us went this way. Whatever, but there was no communication.
No, there wasn't constant,
and nobody knew where you were.
Yeah, correct.
And nobody could find you on the flock camera.
Right. Yeah.
and you just showed back up. And if you didn't show up, then you waited a little bit.
Right.
You waited till 4:20.
Right.
And there was always that friend of yours that would never showed up at 4. Right.
Yeah, there was.
And then to fix that, you know what you did? At 4:05 after you waited, or 4:10. You got on the train with the 4 of your buddies, and you left the late one behind, and he learned his lesson. People don't live like that anymore. Everyone's got to be texting a gazillion times.
Yeah, no, it's a strange dependency. Having to, I think that feeling compelled to be in constant communication with people, I don't think it's healthy. I think it's actually very detrimental.
It can go, yeah. There's good things and bad things about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is basically my office, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But then you got to have a limit.
You do. You have to make sort of rules or self-imposed limits so that, I'm a social media addict, and one of our other episodes was talking about addiction and how addiction is not just about substances. It's about just picking up the phone because you need a hit, and you might not even know it. It's mindless. But, all right. So, I guess in terms of consuming information, trying to understand more about what's actually going on, where do you get your information from, and how would you advise, the audience to get theirs?
So this is probably super old fashioned,
yeah.
But in my Chrome browser, I have for different topics, I have a Massachusetts tab, and I have probably 90 tabs, 90 bookmarks. They're either news websites I go to, or people's Twitter accounts, and then there's the fire hose on Twitter itself. So any number of those places. Plus, I get now over the last 2 years, a lot of people text me, and I don't want to sound Tucker Carlson-ish, but I get a lot of text messages.
You get inbound news now.
Yeah, I get
leads.
I've been able to meet people in person, and then now they text me, or they direct message me on Twitter. So for the number of stories that I get, a lot of information that way. Some of them are just people wanting me to repost their stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
So some of it's a little selfish, but you got to take the good with the bad. And sometimes I will do it, but a lot of times hey, check this out. Check out this city employee who has a car but works from home, and he actually runs 2 departments, but he hardly ever goes to City Hall. Why don't you go knock on his door and see if he's home? Like, so that was something I did about a month ago.
Yeah, I caught that one.
That was a tip.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of inbound tips.
Do you have any plans to expand your platform in any way?
No, not in Massachusetts. Actually, I'm probably going to dial down my Massachusetts content
and focus just anywhere.
I'm super interested again about the data centers and the whole question of whether or not this artificial intelligence is hype. In the same way I went to Eagle Pass to see if Bill Maloogian was lying to me.
Yeah.
I want to know whether or not is this AI just like the new .com bubble thing that's just like a fad, and we'll look back on it like we look back at bell bottoms,
which are back now.
Oh, they're back. See, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or is it like a real thing? There are some people who really believe that it will be, I guess the word is sentient.
Sentient.
Yeah. So thanks. I can barely get by with English language. In fact, the other day, the founder of Anthropic was speaking to the Pope, and he was like, this thing has shown indications of having feelings and of joy and remorse. And this is completely antithetical to Catholic thought. Not that I'm not an expert Catholic, but I'm super interested. Someday is it going to say, like in the famous Kubrick movie, right? Sorry, Dave, I can't open the doors. Right?
Space Odyssey.
So which is a great movie if you've never seen it. Anything Kubrick is great, and they're saying that's coming. But even if that doesn't come, I just think it's a super interesting topic.
It is, and even what you just said makes it even more interesting because the Pope has entered the conversation. Okay? So you've got innovation, which the whole country is talking about, now globally being talked about, with religion entering the picture. That's kind of crazy. Having the Pope opine on innovation as if it infringes on humanity and or God or religiosity.
Which kind of gets us right back to what I started about why I was so interested in physics to begin with. Getting back to the beginning of it, I was super interested in it because physics asks almost the same question. It asks, what is the nature of existence? Are we alone? How did we get here? Who am I? Why am I here? Physics asks those same type of questions.
Yeah.
As religion in a way. And then also to be usually the Pope in the Vatican, they don't go with the trends.
No.
To have them comment on anything that's even anywhere remotely in the news cycle is weird.
Well, from a new age current perspective, I think the Pope has found. It's a membership organization, okay, and they're always looking for new souls to join, and so I think this new Pope has found a positive outlet in standing up to the President of the United States, right? Taking an adverse position to a populace that might not, one, be interested in God, two, certainly not interested in the Catholic Church, or if they were, they might have a renewed interest. So he's taken advantage of the modern playbook, which from a PR standpoint is smart.
He's definitely moving a little bit faster on these topics than prior popes.
Right. And we'll see
how that goes.
We'll see where that goes, exactly. So, Jack, how can people find you?
Probably just at jackatley.com, which is just a simple link tree, but all the links are there.
Great, and I'll put all the links in our show notes. And at the end of every show, we now will have our guest recommend 3 things.
Oh, boy.
Something to read, something to watch, and a song to listen to.
All right, let's start with the song. Yeah. So I'm a big Rolling Stones fan.
Yeah.
So Rough and Twisted is their new single.
Okay.
And their album comes out July 10th.
Wow.
I'm very excited.
What a promo for the Stones.
All right, so rock on.
Yeah.
All right, what was the other thing I have to recommend?
A book to read.
I would go with almost anything David McCullough. I'm a big fan of a big book for the beach.
Okay.
So Truman,
John Adams.
Parting of the Seas.
Parting of the Seas.
I think is especially for like an innovation audience so the construction of the Panama Canal.
Great. And then something to watch.
The Wire.
Oh, The Wire. You know what? I never watched The Wire. I'm putting that on my immediate list. That's great.
Spectacular.
Great. I've only heard good things. Jack, I can't thank you more for coming down here. And
other than my show, of course. Whenever I do it,
you have to watch Jack's show. It's on X.
Occasionally,
I was going to say it's like seldom, but you have to catch it at the right time. Sometimes he pre-announced. Sometimes at 8 a.m. Sometimes at 6 p.m. It's the surprise of the
You're
day.
just lucky if you get to watch it. That's all there is to it.
But he's entertaining, and he's smart, realistic, pragmatist. He's looking for truth out there, and he's trying to share it with all of you. So thank you for being with me today.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you.
We'll catch you soon, okay?
You got it.
All right. Thanks, Jack.